gorgeous women. First, I want to say, boy, I feel like a movie star up here with all the lights and the glitter and that warm welcome. And then if you look over here, you see my picture on the big screen. I'm like, what is going on down here in Cedar Rapids? You all are doing it big. So let's give a round of applause to Kendra and all of the U Conference Committee. Boy, it is an honor to be here. It is an honor to share time and space with all of you beautiful, gorgeous women. Give yourselves a round of applause today. And then it's an honor to grace the stage with all of the courageous, fearless women that came before me. Let's give them another round of applause today. I'm telling you, it takes a lot to get up here because I was about 30 seconds away from heading back to Waterloo. But I said, you know what? My picture's already up there, Vera. Let's go for it. So again, I am Vera Wallican. I am glad to be here. And today we are going to talk about audacity. Everybody say it with me. Audacity. Yes. Audacity means to take bold risks. And I believe that we're born with audacity running in our DNA. I mean, just think about it. Those of us that have children or you've watched your nieces, nephews, grandchildren grow up, they went from being held in our arms to crawling and then walking, taking those chances to take those first steps. When they'd fall, they'd get right back up, right? That takes some courage. That takes some audacity, right? And then each milestone that they would achieve. I just think we're born with audacity running in our DNA, the power to take risks, to fall and then get back up and give ourselves and give life another chance. When I think about my own childhood, I recall at the age of 5, being a very bold, maybe a little naughty little girl. And when I was 5 years old, I remember a time when I had gotten my sister's bike that was too big for me. And I was going to go up the street and around the corner to get a bouquet of lilacs for my mother. She loved lilacs. She loved the way the flowers shared such a calm aroma in our home. And even though my father told me, don't ride your sister's bike, it's too big for you, that little spirit of audacity said, girl, go ahead and get that bike. Because how will your daddy know? Well, Dad found out when I was hit by a car and knocked unconscious. And when I woke up, there was a crowd standing over me. And one little boy was licking his ice cream cone like, what's wrong with you? Nothing, just hit by a car. And so my parents came and rescued me, took me to the hospital, and I had broken my leg. But I remember my dad teaching me to walk all over again with that cast. And then when I was 10, I thought it was a brilliant idea to climb down a hill wearing skates. Now, I'm not talking about the skates that had the little rubber at the toe where you could kind of break yourself. Oh, no, not back then. These were the skates where once you went, you just went. And at the age of 10, while climbing down a hill wearing the skates, I fell and broke my arm. Had to go to the same hospital and have surgery to reset my bones. Now, with this pattern of something pretty significant happening every 5 years, I was a little concerned about turning 15. What did I have left to break, right? But something different happened before I reached that milestone. And I'm going to tell you, this is the first time I have shared this narrative of my story publicly. It was at the age of 13 that I was sexually assaulted by someone who was not a stranger. This traumatic experience was life-changing because, like some of you, I'm going to guess, I lived in a season where you didn't talk about certain things. What happened to you, it stayed within you. And so I suffered in silence with this sense. I didn't hear you. And so I suffered in silence. I felt guilty, I felt ashamed, I felt embarrassed, and I felt like it was my fault for putting myself in this situation. I had failed me. I had failed me. I took on the entire responsibility of the situation. And I held that secret inside. But we know that you can only sit with that kind of trauma inside for so long, right? We know that we can only hold trauma and hurt and shame for so long before at some point we have this emotional outburst because it has to get out. The pain has to come out. And the time came when I could not carry that burden any longer. And so one night, while sitting in my bedroom and the door closed, I took an overdose of pills. Because at that point, I felt like death was my only out. I didn't think about it. I didn't really process it. I just felt like that was my only way out. And after ingesting the bottle of pills, I tucked myself away in bed and I said, God, come get me because I'm ready to go. And I drifted to sleep. And then I woke up and I was disappointed because in my mind, I had failed again. What a loser. You can't even kill yourself. I was so upset with me. So I continued on, carrying this guilt, carrying this shame, seeing the perpetrator periodically, which did not help me at all. And 2 years later, I tried again. And this time I said, I'm going to try some different pills this time. Maybe it was the pills that just weren't strong enough. I'm trying something different this time. So I did the same thing in the same bedroom, took the pills, laid down, prayed, God, come get me. And I went to sleep. And I woke up. And I was disappointed. And so somehow I just found the will to continue with life because obviously death was not the answer for me. So by this time I was in high school. And I began a relationship with the guy that for some odd reason I consider my high school sweetheart. And it was a very unhealthy relationship. You know, when we're teenagers, you think you know everything, right? No one can really tell you anything. So I had found this guy who showed me what I thought was love at that time as a very hurt and broken teenager. And our relationship was plagued with domestic violence, serial cheating, and many heartbreaks. And when I became pregnant during our senior year in high school, he left. And I found myself alone and an embarrassment to my family. Another heavy load to bear. So I went on to graduate high school on time. Yay me. I gave birth to my amazing son. In the next semester, I began college at UNI because I was determined to go on to help other families. That was always in me. And while in college, I met and married my now former husband. It was a whirlwind romance that led to an unplanned pregnancy before we were married, and then an unhealthy marriage that was again plagued with domestic violence, serial cheating, and a heartbreaking divorce. I remember when my dad walked me up the aisle at my wedding, he said, "You know, you don't have to do this." I'm like, "We kind of here now, Dad." But we had a very heartbreaking divorce. He left like we didn't have kids, like we didn't have family, and like we hadn't made a commitment to say "I do" until death. So here I was, 24, divorced, raising 4 children as a single mother, crushed, alone, and divorced. This could not be my life. This could not be my life. You see, in the public's eye, all was well. I was a college graduate with a professional career. I was very active in my church and my community. I owned my own home, my own vehicle. My children were excelling in academics and athletics, and I was always smiling. Why? Because I had perfected the art of wearing a mask. But behind closed doors, I had hit my emotional rock bottom. I was deeply depressed. I cried almost every day, and I yelled at my very amazing children who really deserved a mother who would rediscover her audacity for life and heal. And periodically, I fought off thoughts to climb in my van with my sleeping children, park my running van in our closed garage, and go to sleep because I didn't want to hurt anymore. And I didn't want them to be left behind without a mother or a father. And I remember the night I was at my computer typing my goodbye letter to my family when my sister called. And she said, "God placed you on my mind, and I'm calling to see, are you okay?" That night she was my angel, and she doesn't even know that. And those thoughts dissolved, never to return. So it was motherhood that kept me alive. It was motherhood that I could look to for the joy in my life. My children were heavily involved in church. They were heavily involved in sports, musical programs, and community activities. And wherever they were, I showed up as their greatest cheerleader because motherhood kept me alive. But while I was molding them to be the best that they could be, I failed to pour into me. And one by one, my children grew up. They all graduated from high school on time, and they left home to attend college. And at the age of 45, I became an empty nester. I remember waking up one day in my empty home. The silence was so loud and deafening. I walked to the bathroom. I stared in the mirror, and the reflection of a stranger stared back at me. Because I'd lost myself long ago. I'd eaten myself to over 300 pounds. I was deep in debt because shopping was a way that I dealt with the pain. I was deeply depressed. My house was a mess. I was alone. I hated my entire life. And in that moment, it's as though something inside of me said, "Girl, get back up and discover your audacity to love life and live free." And I want to share this reading that I found from Affirmation Mondays. And it says, "The wounds we gather upon ourselves as we go through life are many and varied. However, all have one core truth." And I want you to listen to this. And that truth is that our healing from the wounds is our own responsibility and no one else's. Our healing from our wounds is our own responsibility and no one else's. I had been wounded by my childhood that met my physical needs, yet neglected my desperate needs for words of affirmation and physical touch. I had been wounded by my perpetrator who had taken advantage of me and who had sexually assaulted me. I had been wounded by my high school sweetheart who started a new relationship right in my face while I carried our unborn child. I had been wounded by my husband who prioritized drugs, alcohol, and affairs over our marriage and our family. I had been wounded, yet it was my responsibility to heal. And I just want to pause and tell someone within the sound of my voice. Because look, we've all been wounded, right? Anybody in here that has never experienced a wound? If so, you are definitely the minority. We have all been wounded. Sometimes it is by our own choices. Sometimes we are completely innocent in the situation. We have all been wounded. If you have not been wounded, you will be wounded before you leave this earth. But it is someone else, even if it's someone else's responsibility, it is our responsibility to heal. And it was in these moments that I began the transforming process to shift my mind and change my life to become the unstoppable force that stands before you today. Because I no longer wanted to play the victim. And I realized that my victory was within my fearless reach. And I knew that God was always with me and had left me here on earth to fulfill an assignment. And so I began therapy with the most amazing woman who was a godsend. She created a safe space for me to share my life without judgment, just as you all have done here today, and process what had broken me and rediscover the authentic me. I began my weight loss journey, and I lost 120 pounds. Although during the pandemic, I told everybody, look, everything closed during the pandemic except my refrigerator and my mouth. And I found about 30 of those pounds that's under this jacket right now. But I'm getting rid of that. Anybody else gain a few pandemic pounds? No, I'm just joking. I accepted my calling to ministry. After being outside of the classroom for 25 years, I went to seminary, Luther Seminary to be exact, in St. Paul, Minnesota. I almost quit many times, but I'm so glad that I didn't. In 2022, I earned my Master of Divinity, and I am now an ordained itinerant elder with the AME Church. I want to pause and tell anyone, no matter your age, if you're thinking about going back to school, go ahead and do that. It's for you, not for anyone else. I paid off all my debt. I bought my modest dream home, and I discovered the authentic me over and over and over again, because life is a journey, right? We are on an evolving journey called life. So who I was then, I'm someone different even now. And during the pandemic, although it's very traumatic, there were some blessings that came out of that. And I discovered a deeper passion to empower other women through life coaching and launched Live Free Coaching, where I empower Gen X women to overcome the residue of past trauma, rewrite the narrative of their life story, and discover their audacity to shift their mind, change their life, and live free. Because it's never too late unless you believe that it's too late. Our mindset matters. If I believe I can't, I won't. And it's in my belief that I can, that I will. And this is what author Marianne Williamson says about the power of mindset in her book, A Return to Love, Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles. You may believe that you are responsible for what you do, but not for what you think. The truth is that you are responsible for what you think, because it is only at this level that you can exercise choice. What you do comes from what you think.
What you do comes from what you think. Mindset matters. When we shift our mindset from fixed to growth, from can't to can, from pain to passion, from victim to victory, from lose to win, from death to loss, we change our life and discover our audacity to live free. So I want to leave you with these 3 empowering nuggets that have helped me, and hopefully, I hope they help you as well, and have helped many of my coaching clients. Number 1, face it.
Somebody say, face it. Somebody else say, face it. Life happens, right? Disappointment happens, problems happen, trauma happens, disasters happen. As the young people say, sometimes life just be life. I just be life. But we can't run from it, and we certainly can't run from ourselves. So stop running and do what you have to do to fearlessly face your it. Number 2, forgive it. Somebody shout, forgive it. Forgiving is empowering and freeing. Forgiving people, experiences, and hurt, it frees me from being held hostage in my own mind, body, and life. And finally, somebody say, fix it. Do the work, the hard work that restores your audacity for fearless greatness, whatever that looks like for you. When we allow our pain to evolve into life's passion and purpose, we continue to discover ways to love life and encourage women around us to know that they are not alone and that healing is a choice that they can make. Face it, forgive it, fix it. As I stand before you today, I'm so glad I don't look like what I've been through. I'm so glad that I don't look like what I've been through. I stand before you a strong, beautiful black woman who has chosen to face it, forgive it, and fix it. I stand before you a healed woman who fearlessly accepts my invitations to become comfortable in my comfort, to become uncomfortable in my comfort zone, and explore the world in new and exciting ways. I stand before you a woman who continues to trust in God and believe that all things are working together for my good. I stand before you a woman who continues to shift my mind, to change my life, and discover my audacity to live free. Good morning, gorgeous. Life is ready for you. Are you ready to live the life that you love? Thank you. God bless.
Yeah.